A 12% reduction in fuel prices is what the public actually demanded and got. That was the story of Brazil. But what about India? As we speak, petrol is being sold at 86.24 paise a litre in India's financial capital, Mumbai. That's close to $1.3 a litre. For those not very familiar with India, it can be understood that these prices are burning a hole in the pockets of Indians. It's not without reason the biggest priority for most Indians is buying cars, and that is the mileage, the number of miles to a litre. Similarly, the petrol has crossed the 81 mark in Kolkata and Chennai and just shy of 80 rupees in Bengaluru. Diesel is no different. It's selling between 69 and 74 rupees in tier 1 cities. So what is the government of India doing about this? It's not that the government is not doing anything. There's only one problem. Government's action or inaction has not resulted in any reprieve for Indians yet. Last week, let's go back to what Law Minister Ravi Shankar Prasad had to say. He said that the government is not interested in temporary measures. The government will take a long-term view. Now, we have spoken and discussed and explained at length how taxes on petrol and diesel in India are extraordinarily high. So we will not state the obvious, but there's one more problem. The Law Minister also said, and certain other ministers have echoed the same sentiment, that the taxes on fuel are used to develop India. The taxes on fuel are also used for welfare schemes, and that's where the story ends. Development comes at a price and Indians are paying at it. Now, that also brings me to the big question. Are we Indians paying the cost of development? To join this discussion, I am joined in by Nagain Singh, our correspondent who's joining us live from New Delhi, and Jessica Taneja, our correspondent joining us live from the newsroom. Let me quickly go across to Nagain first. Nagain, what are your sources telling you? Have you spoken to people around in Delhi? The public is paying the price, and are we Indians actually paying the price of development? Okay, we'll try to reconnect with Nagain. For now, let me go back to Jessica, who's also joining me from the newsroom. Jessica, we see how the fuel prices are taking a toll on our day-to-day lives. Clearly, it's the common man which is paying the price.
Absolutely, the common man is paying the price, and this is in fact the 16th day when the fuel prices are hiked, and one is only waiting for the government to come and rescue. But if the reasons being given are that the fact that development is what is required from the taxes that we pay on the fuel, the fuel rise that we see today is in fact sort of shocking, because if you look at how Brazil, and we were talking about Brazil earlier as well, if you look at how Brazil has been operating, they were all on strike. The trucks were on strike. The country is facing a lot of problem, where even Michel Temer tried to involve the military as well to keep the strikes away. But that really is the kind of example we should be looking at. Of course, in India, strikes take a different route where there's destruction of property. But at the same time, the way these silent protests have triggered the Brazilian government to take action is incredible, because there has been a 10% relief or a subsidy relief for the fuel there in the country after this massive strike took place. And then come back to India. It is incumbent on the Indian government to come help rescue the ordinary citizen who's facing the problems right here.
Right. Jessica, you aptly quoted the example of Brazil, which is also a part of the BRICS like India. And, it's interesting to note that, over there, the public actually went on to defy, and they called on for a protest. Are we Indians not being aggressive enough? Is that the reason why we are paying the cost?
Well, it's not like, Akansha, people are settled with this fuel price rise. It's just that it's now touching, in many cities, it's now touching more than 80 rupees. And if you look at what the crude price is, it's come down from what it was earlier. It was $80 a barrel, or it was touching $80 a barrel. Now it is way below the mark. So there has to be reasons what the government needs to explain as to why the fuel prices are still, on a hike and not deciding anywhere where there could be a relief for the common man. So a lot of questions needs to be asked for the government, but everything does not require a strike. The government can take notice and do whatever it can to help ease problems instead of people who are out on roads.
So joined in by Nagain. Let me quickly go across to Nagain, who is in Delhi right now. Nagain, what is the situation? Have you spoken to people around you? How are the people paying, it is the common man which is clearly bearing the burden of this rising fuel price.
Good morning. Well, this has been a very sensitive issue for India, even if the people can afford petrol. But if the prices go high, it becomes a very sensitive issue for India and the common people over here. And that is the reason that people are in anger. But it is not like in 2013 when the prices went higher to around 76 rupees. People were on the street and they were protesting. But you don't see these kind of activities or real protest against the rising prices of petrol in Delhi or in anywhere around India. And the reason behind it is that petrol prices are increasing by 20 paisa, 30 paisa every day. So people might not see direct effect, but now they are seeing the direct effect because the prices have been increased regularly for 16 days, and now suddenly the prices are above 78 rupees and 50 paisa in New Delhi. So you can see the grocery prices and also the vegetable prices will go higher in some times because it all depends on the prices of the diesel, which is the main source of transportation for the vegetables and the grocery.
Right, Nagain, if you've spoken to people around you, the common public, let's not miss out on the fact that diesel prices are also on a high. In Delhi, it is 69.31 paise. In Mumbai, it is nearing 74 rupees per litre. So, and of course, even Chennai and Kolkata are bearing the brunt of it. Let's not forget that, most trucks are depending on diesel as a fuel. So, clearly, there could just be a huge cutback in terms of food supplies over there if diesel prices continue to rise, because we all know that trucks are majorly dependent on diesel.
Right, and that is why people are afraid that the prices may go much higher for all kind of groceries. And also most of the people are saying that during January and February, when the petrol prices in international market were much lesser, even at that time government increased the taxes and excise duty to get more revenue. But those increased taxes and excise duties have been not reduced when the prices of petrol in international market or the crude oil in international market has gone higher. And most of the people believe that the government should cut the excise duty a bit. But the problem with the excise duty is that even if government tries to cut even 1 rupee of excise duty from the petrol, they will be facing a loss of 13,000 crore of rupees. And that is why it is not even easier for the government to reduce the petrol prices. Other theory with which the people are not happier, they believe, or most of them say that before Karnataka election, the prices were not increased. And the moment Karnataka elections got over, the prices were increased. So they also question what will happen when Rajasthan election will come up, when Chhattisgarh election will come up, and also when general elections of 2019 will come. At that time, will they repeat the same kind of system, or the prices will increase the same way when election will come, or they will try to stop it for a while and it will be increased again? So of course there is some kind of anger in people because they think that overall situation will lead to inflation in the market and the prices will go much higher. That is the real worry for them.
Right.
And the petrol prices, of course, they can afford it, but it is a sensitive issue.
Clearly, it is a sensitive issue, Nagain. And as we all know that the general elections are all set for 2019, this just could prove to be quite an acid test for the BJP, because clearly the Achhe Din are not around. On a concluding note, now let me go across to Jessica, who's joining me from the newsroom. Jessica, it's already becoming a political blame game. We've heard Mamata Banerjee lash out at the government for not controlling the fuel prices. Union Petroleum and Natural Gas Minister Dharmendra Pradhan also had earlier assured that the prices will be taken charge of. But there has been nothing done so far to control the situation. This clearly speaks of a very, very miserable plight of affairs in our country at the moment.
Absolutely, and interestingly, you put that together, Akansha, that makes sense right now, because you can't expect people to be out on road and, usually quitting their jobs and be out on roads protesting against what the government is not able to do for its citizens. After all, it is incumbent on the government to come and help rescue them, and with such surges and hikes in fuel prices, it's making difficult for the common man. Everybody does not travel in, public transport. There are many cars out on the road. People do have their personal vehicles, so what do you do? And even for public transport, if you look at that as well, the buses would also, of course, run on CNG as well as diesel. So, of course, the problem does not end there. And it's high time the government needs to wake up and smell the coffee and see what the citizens are going through. Because whatever they are doing or whatever they're up to are not enough. Earlier, you heard, as you pointed out, the Petroleum Minister, Dharmendra Pradhan, he spoke to the press and he said that there are different reasons being attributed to this. The recent reason one of them was that the US pulling out of the Iran nuclear deal. So, of course, there can be many reasons, but the solution is one. And that solution is to help the residents of this country.
Right, Jessica, very rightly said that the solution is one, which is that the citizens of the country are to be helped. And interestingly enough, the SBI has already stated that a reduction in petrol and diesel prices is very much possible if a VAT at the base rate is reduced and that there is a cut in the excise duty. That goes on to say that if the government wishes, it can pay heed. On that note, we move out of this story. We surely hope that the central government takes note of this discussion and that the common man is spared this burden of rising fuel prices.